British left, they made a census. According to that census, those who registered as Arab, of Arab origin, were 31% of the population. Those who registered as indigenous Africans were 69% of the population. And the argument of the hypothetical model is that if people of Arab origin in the Sudan can define Sudan as an Arab state, and they are 31% by that census, there is no reason why the indigenous Africans, who are 69%, cannot also define Sudan as an African state. Now, if this were to happen, then it is the people of Arab origin that would be accommodated just like Southern Sudan is accommodated here. And so they will be accommodated in a Northern Sudan state for people of Arab origin. Now these two models, Model 3, the existing one, and Model 4, the hypothetical one, are inherently unjust. They exclude others. Here, Africans and non-Muslims are excluded. Here, Arabs, people of Arab origin, are excluded. The two models are inherently unjust, and they are unacceptable. They will be resisted. They have been, in the existing model, they have been resisted. This is not something that I'm making up. 2 wars have happened here. The first war lasted 17 years. The present war has lasted 19 years. That is 36 years of war out of 46 years of independence because of the untenability of this model. And so Southern has resisted this model in Nyanya 1, the first war, and they wanted to establish Model 5, which is the total independence model, to have an independent Southern Sudan state. If this hypothetical model was to take place, people of Arab origin would also resist it, and they would want to establish their own independent Northern Sudan state. And so this Model 3, the existing one, and Model 4, the hypothetical one, would be resisted and would result in the breakup of the country. They are untenable. They must be scrapped. Model 3 must be scrapped, Islamic Arab Sudan, and Model 4 must never be put in place. Back in 1983, we sat down as a movement, we discussed the objectives of the struggle, and we resolved that we would fight for a transformed democratic new Sudan, that we would fight for a new Sudan that belongs to all its people, whether they are of Arab origin or of African origin, whether they are Christians or whether they are Muslims. Something similar to what you have here in the United States. I think you call it, the melting pot. I don't know whether it has melted yet, but it is melting, and the objective of the movement ever since 1983 was to establish a new Sudan that belongs to all the Sudanese people, in the south and in the north, in the west and in the east and in the center. Now, in order to achieve a new Sudan, a democratic Sudan, it is absolutely necessary that there must be constitutional separation of religion and state. Sharia is one of the major Sharia that was imposed by Numeri in 1983 and reinforced by the present National Islamic Front government in Khartoum is one of the major stumbling blocks to achieving the new Sudan. We have been negotiating with this government since 1993 in IGAD. IGAD is a regional grouping that brings together countries of East Africa and the Horn, Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, and Eritrea, Somalia, and Djibouti. to broker peace in the Sudan. But we have fundamentally disagreed on the issue of Sharia. The NIF says that they cannot separate religion and state, and we say we cannot accept some form of Sharia, and there has been deadlock. So we have evolved Model 2. Model 2, I have called it here the minimum New Sudan model. And this minimum New Sudan model, which I have called a Sudanese Confederation, a reaction to Khartoum's or to the NIF refusal to separate religion and state. I have depicted it here as an intersection of two circles representing two states, one in the south and one in the north, but the country is still remaining one in a confederate union. You can therefore then solve the problem of Sharia, the problem of religion, by having the NIF have the Sharia in one state, that is the northern state, and they can have a Sharia as much as they want. Or as much as the people of the northern Sudan will allow them to. And they will have my solidarity. In the southern state, you will have a different constitution in which religion and state will be constitutionally separated. You'll have a democratic state. But then we will have an area of interaction, an area of intersection, that is this shaded area. So this is a form of unity. This is a form of unity. It is a confederate union. It is something that existed in the United States in the early days of the Confederation, and eventually the Confederal States ceded powers to the center until you have now the United States of America, which is federated. And so this is a possible form of union that can, under the circumstances of the National Islamic Front, that can end the war and achieve a just and fair political settlement. I have compared this kind of arrangement to what you have in the Western world, something called living together without getting married. And so here, we don't propose marriage, but we propose living together. This model can then develop over time. It can be developed to Model 1 by the expansion of the shaded area to full circle. That's why I call it a minimum Sudan, as whatever we can agree on during an interim period. At the end of the interim period, at the beginning of the interim period, this will be the form of governance. It is one of the difficulties we have in IGAD, is the form of governance during the interim period. So we propose, in negotiations with the NIF, we propose this model to be the solution to the problem of war in the Sudan. At the end of the interim period, people will then vote. A referendum will be conducted on self-determination to choose between two things. A, whether to continue with this confederate union and develop it to Model 1, or B, whether to proceed to Model 5 and have two separate and independent states. That will be the issue of the referendum. And so here I have depicted, in my view, Professor Van or whoever invented Venn diagrams must be happy with me, because I've put to good use his Venn diagrams. I'm happy with him also for inventing Venn diagrams, because they depict the problem of the Sudan and in a very succinct way on one page. And also we present possible solutions.